Hello, my name is the Faniac, and today I would like to present my take on Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio. And I do want to give a brief context in terms of what I thought of previous Pinocchio versions. The original 1940 version from Disney is a classic. I'm not going to deny that. I feel like it has its own dated problems, but even then, I doubt that's gonna like compare to anything we make today. Pretty much, it was like a staple mark and deserves its place on the Disney throne of like best animated classics. But then, of course, there's been other iterations since then. Like recently, Disney did their own live action take with Robert Zemeckis directing the live action Disney's Pinocchio. That was utter lifeless garbage. um, I do want to. I don't. I mean, it has its own unique moments of which it might has an essence of recapturing the original, but even then, it falls flat compared to it. But I do want to talk a bit and give some brief context to Del Toro's version, because he originally pitched this in 2008. And soon after he announced, after I think Hellboy to the Golden Army, he said Pinocchio would be his next project. It would be a huge passion project for him. But then, of course, it soon went into development hell. And then by the time he started to get the ball rolling, no studio would finance it. And come 2017, the project looked like it was going to be shut down and it wouldn't make it. But thankfully, by the grace of almighty whatever, Netflix was able to pick up Del Toro's Pinocchio, and he was able to get it made as a stop-motion feature-length film. So he teamed up with director Mark Gustafson and co-wrote the script with Patrick McHale, who was famous for working and creating Over the Garden Wall for Cartoon Network. And also, the script is based on a story treatment done by Del Toro and Matthew Robbins. With that said, it's also, and then production went in immediately, I think in 2018, so it's been 4 years. He took an extra time, so technically it's a passion project he's been working on for 14 years. So after all this time, and even comparing it to other versions that have come out since then, how does this one fare? I truly think this is the best one we're ever going to get, hands down. In terms of what I generally thought, like in terms of a brief synopsis, what I think of this movie, it's gorgeous. It's amazing. It's beautiful. If you have any thoughts of going to see it right now. Right now it's playing in select theaters. I was able to go to one of my local theaters, which is just like a couple minutes away-ish. And I was able to go see it on the big screen. I had some popcorn, popped that little soda, and man, it was gorgeous. I was actually in one of the first few rows. I thought it would be like intimidating, but it fully complemented the screen. If anything, I could fully embrace the life and tall grandeur of Del Toro's movie. And man, it shows, because each frame was gorgeous. It was beautiful. You could tell that it was a work of passion, and he clearly put his heart and soul into the making of this movie. And boy, that's as much as I could hope for from any Del Toro movie. And this one is the diamond in the rough. This one is possibly his best movie yet. And in terms of other previous Del Toro projects, that's saying a lot, because he did win Best Picture for Shape of Water. That already is debatable in itself. And then last year we had to deal with Nightmare Alley, which I personally thought was a really amazing trip that has its own problems, but still worth taking nonetheless. I feel like the only real movie that really got me emotional from Del Toro, I think, was his very first movie, Kronos. Mostly because of his way with dealing with the lore of vampires and twisting it into an emotionally wrought story that really tugs at you. And he does something similar here on a bigger level with this Pinocchio version. Because I actually do like this opening sequence. It is really, it's tone set right here, in which we actually have Geppetto raising his actual real son, Carlo, and we see him in the daily life, going to church, fixing up the cross, painting it, and whatever. And then, of course, World War II is on the rise, the bombers are coming, the bomb drops, Carlo's gone. Ooh, man. Just to see that one scene, yikes. But nonetheless, I appreciate how much Del Toro must have been on the fringe, thinking like how if possible, he was going to work under Disney for this. I am glad Disney did not touch this at all, considering how they did their Pinocchio movie, I am fully glad they subtracted themselves from the equation for this. It is rooting itself in darkness. To put this into context, it's literally taking place, I think, in 1938 during fascist Italy on the rise. Um, with like, Hitler, they're literally doing the salute and everything. And from what Del Toro is saying, he wanted to show a pure authoritarian Italy where like obedience is the key. You're like literally supposed to be a role model for everyone, which fully contrasts Pinocchio, because Pinocchio is brought to life by the Blue Fairy, who was actually played by Tilda Swinton in this, and Carlo was literally like a role model. He was quiet, he was calm, he listened to his papa Geppetto, but Pinocchio is like fully energetic, fully vibrant, and doesn't give a crap about any rules that comes his way. So I do like the idea of using this setting, and Del Toro fully uses it into this viewpoint. And I also want to point out there is a Count Volpe, who is an amalgamation of the Fox, Machiafolco, and I think pretty much the Coachman, in terms of like trying to get Pinocchio away from school to be obedient and to follow into the rules of realms of trickery and mayhem and just be a carny. And considering how Del Toro did Nightmare Alley, I'm purely convinced he wanted to help do Pinocchio just so he could do Nightmare Alley for kids, which I still have no problems with. Um, with that said, though, I do actually want to bring up what really holds this movie up together, which is clearly, again, Del Toro fully in control. Because what is really present here is what was absent from the Disney movie, which was respect for the source material. Because this is literally purely based on Carlo Collodi's Pinocchio and not Disney trying to remake their interpretation of Carlo Collodi's Pinocchio. That's already like, what the F? Like a total mind F right there. But I do want to say that this movie also takes certain liberties with that tale, as it strives to be a less fairy tale and more. I don't want to say less fairy. I don't. Okay, so what I mean is, of course, there's still a talking cricket. We still have. Okay, actually, there is a bit of changes. I do actually like this one change, where instead the cricket, who was originally Jiminy Cricket, everyone knows that guy, but instead it's Sebastian J. Cricket here, played by Ewan McGregor. He's fantastic. And he plays a very self-indulgent writer who actually is in a tree that Geppetto cuts down and uses to make the wood for Pinocchio. And I thought that was really interesting. And when he first comes across the fairy, he's like, "Don't you touch this! Don't you touch this! This is my property. What are you doing? This is my house." So I really appreciate him evolving over the time, seeing Pinocchio as what the moral of the story is, accepting him as a human. And that's why, and this really differs from other interpretations, where of course Pinocchio becomes a real boy at the end, but I love what really, really was emotional was the relationship that Pinocchio has with Geppetto, because Geppetto doesn't like Pinocchio. He feels like he is too annoying. He's too much of a brat. He doesn't want to deal with him. But the whole movie is about acceptance. He is not going to be the perfect role model. He is not the ideal son Geppetto wants, but he's the one he has. He is not going to be a human anytime soon. But the best thing he could do is to treat him like one. And if you treat someone like a human, then they will be accepted. And man, that message hits home right hard at the end. After the escape, this version of Monstro, I guess, they wind up at the beach, and then as soon as Pinocchio is quote-unquote brought back to life after using his immortality to sacrifice it to be human, he technically dies, but then comes back again after the Sebastian J. Cricket makes a deal with the fairy to get one wish if he looks after Pinocchio. What happens there? But man, as soon as Pinocchio reconciles with Geppetto, his father, the tears just start coming out. I rarely admit this. I'm not a huge crier. I don't cry that much. So when I say I was crying nonstop for the last 5 minutes of this movie, I legit mean it. As soon as they embraced each other for who one another is, I just started crying, and the tears never stopped. They came right into the credits. And the message itself is truly beautiful, because Pinocchio is all about him not really realizing what immortality means. And so when he sacrifices immortality, and only for it to get it back, he realizes that the time he spends with Geppetto is meaningful. So last few minutes of the story shows a montage of him spending time with Geppetto's final days until he puts him to rest, and then just Sebastian J. Cricket, and then Monkey. We find out Spezzatura, who was actually a pet that Count Volp looked after. So again, the message was so beautiful and really drove it right home perfectly. I loved it so much. This movie was perfectly casted. The animation in terms of the stop motion is beautifully done on this huge scale. It needs to be seen on the big screen. I cannot recommend it already enough. But with that said, I do want to bring up some problems I have with the movie. And I put those in quotation marks because I really don't give a crap about these problems. But I do want to talk about them. Because there is this side character who Ron Perlman plays called Podesta, which makes sense because it ties in with the fascist Italy setting. He literally plays a Podesta who wants to train Pinocchio to be the perfect soldier to fight in the coming war. And then, between Pinocchio leaving the circus and dealing with Count Volp and escaping him, he apparently winds up under Podesta's control, and he sends him off to military school to train to be a soldier, who he later befriends his son, Candlewick. They have a situation going on, and I only bring this part up because it is a cool part. I like this part, but I also feel like it adds too little. It could possibly be cut out. Because, let's be honest, you literally just could cut to Count Volp putting Pinocchio on a cross and burning him. We wouldn't question that after what he did with, the last performance before that. But yeah, and between that, though, we have Pinocchio going to school for him to be fired out after a bombing, and then grind up and Count Volp again. So I figure that part easily could have been cut out, and we could save us a little bit more time, make the pacing a little bit more tighter, a lot more watchable. With that said, though, it is still very well made. I still want to see how the situation plays out, and it still keeps me interested enough. So it's not like it's horrible. It just is kind of a nitpick, really. But overall, I can't recommend this enough. Again, if you think you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it. If you have any second thoughts, though, of not watching it, silence them immediately and turn on your TV screen to see when it's coming to Netflix. I think it's December 9th. Watch it then, but I highly recommend you to find the nearest theater that has this movie and go watch it right now. I cannot recommend it enough as is. Despite whatever little nitpicks I have, I am going to thankfully award Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio 5 out of 5 stars. It truly is a movie worth cooking for this long and worth waiting this long for. I wish more stop motion movies would be made and more animation movies like this would be given this much care and this much attention. Right now, it currently stands at 96 on Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't hear this many people talking about it, which is really upsetting to me because this is a truly fantastic movie that really deserves a lot of attention. Please, if you really do like film and you like Del Toro's work, please check this out. Talk to your friends about it. Recommend it to anyone who you think would be interested for what I said about this movie. Have them go watch it immediately. I think you'll either have a very fun time watching it, or if you're like me, you're just going to crawl up next to whoever's right near you and just bawl your eyes out at the end. But then again, that's my thoughts on the movie. If you already saw it, what do you think of the movie? Do you think it's better than other interpretations, or do you feel like the animated Disney is still the best? I personally think this is a lot better in comparison, but hey, I'm not the internet. I can't decide your opinions for you. So I'd like to know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe. And please tune in for more videos and reviews in the future. Take care.